So let me ask you a question. Do you ever feel like your constant need to be the good person, always holding the door, always saying yes to organizing that office birthday card, constantly putting everyone else first, is actually causing you this hidden, incredibly heavy exhaustion? If you're a chronic people pleaser, you might be carrying around a weight that you can't quite put into words. Well, today we're going to unpack exactly why that happens.
Welcome to This Explainer. Okay, let's dive right into this because we're going to look at the fascinating intersection of everyday psychology and clinical research to completely destigmatize the exhaustion of being a good person. We'll be pulling from a really interesting mix of sources, including a recent clinical study on nursing, insights from Hartford Healthcare, and behavioral psychology, just to show you that your emotional drain is absolutely not in your head. It's a documented, scientifically backed phenomenon.
Section 1, The Cost of Kindness.
If you're a caregiver, a chronic people pleaser, or just that friend who always listens but never really speaks, you probably feel invisible sometimes, right? Like your constant giving is just expected. People no longer see your kindness as a gift. It just kind of fades into the background. And honestly, that can make you feel like a ghost in your own life. To understand why we even do this, we have to look at the metaphor of the mask. Often, we adopt this persona super early in life. As kids, we learn that being helpful gets us praise, and it keeps us safe from conflict or rejection. So we put on a mask, a face that's always calm, always ready to help. But wearing a mask all the time is exhausting work. You're hiding your true anger, your sadness, your personal boundaries. And over time, this mask you built to protect yourself actually becomes a really heavy prison. And this brings us to a really fascinating clinical comparison from the Frontiers in Psychology journal. There's this massive societal myth that constant giving is the ultimate virtue. But clinically speaking, giving until it literally hurts is known as pathological altruism. It's harmful overgiving that actually damages the giver. On the flip side, we have healthy selfishness. Now, I know selfishness usually gets a bad rap, but here it simply means necessary self-preservation. It's the whole oxygen mask principle. You've got to secure your own before you can assist others.
Moving on to Section 2, Spotting Compassion Fatigue. Let's see how this builds. Because when we take this everyday exhaustion and put it under pressure, it morphs into a severe clinical reality. According to Bacchus Hospital and Hartford Healthcare, compassion fatigue isn't just your run-of-the-mill stress. It is a literal depletion of your empathy. It's this emotional numbing caused by constant exposure to the intense emotional needs or suffering of others. We see this heavily in healthcare workers, teachers, and parents who are constantly exposed to suffering without getting the support they need to actually recharge. So how do you actually know if you have it? Well, Hartford Healthcare outlines 7 critical red flags. First, feeling emotionally drained or completely numb. Second, a noticeable decrease in your actual empathy. You just don't have it in you today. Third, increased irritability or snapping over the little things. Fourth, intrusive thoughts about the suffering of others keeping you up at night. Fifth, a profound sense of hopelessness. Sixth, withdrawing from your friends and colleagues. And finally, physical or cognitive symptoms like poor sleep, random headaches, and just general brain fog. Listen, if you're nodding along to these right now, you are definitely not alone.
All right, Section 3, the emotional labor trap. And this brilliantly illustrates the psychological toll of this fatigue. We're looking at a super compelling 2024 PLOS One study of 272 female nurses across hospitals in Taiwan. The researchers basically hypothesized that when nurses are deeply drained by compassion fatigue, they suffer a severe lack of internal resources. Because their tank is totally empty, they're literally forced to change how they perform emotional labor at work. They just no longer have the energy to genuinely connect, so they have to adapt just to survive the shift. The study breaks this down into 2 specific types of emotional labor: surface acting and deep acting. Now, deep acting is when you genuinely adjust your internal feelings to match the empathy your job requires. It's completely authentic. But when you're totally exhausted by compassion fatigue, you resort to surface acting. This is essentially faking your emotions without changing how you actually feel inside. You're just plastering on that professional mask. And the study shows that this surface acting creates a massive emotional disconnect that drastically accelerates burnout. Which brings us to Section 4, the power of self-compassion. So how do we actually break this cycle? Well, the PLOS One study didn't just map out the problem. It tested a scientifically proven antidote to this whole emotional labor trap. They defined self-compassion as a vital internal resource. It's the willingness to face painful experiences with genuine self-kindness. It means understanding your personal limits and mistakes without that harsh inner critic, and viewing your struggles as just a normal part of the human experience.
Ultimately, it's about regulating your internal emotions with grace rather than judgment. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the data. It's actually pretty striking. If you look at the left, measuring surface acting, as compassion fatigue goes up, the blue line, which represents people with high self-compassion, stays significantly lower. They don't have to fake it. Meanwhile, on the right graph, measuring genuine emotions, that same blue line stays much higher. So the crucial takeaway here is that having high self-compassion actually protects your ability to be genuine. It breaks that vicious cycle of burnout and emotional faking.
And finally, Section 5, embracing healthy selfishness. Okay, we've seen the clinical data, but how do we actually translate this into our daily lives? Well, first, we've got to recognize the ultimate danger of ignoring this problem, which is a really powerful concept called self-abandonment. Self-abandonment is the slow, dangerous process of ignoring your own needs, your own feelings, and your own dreams just so everyone else around you can be happy. And it doesn't happen overnight. It starts with really small choices. Skipping your lunch break, saying yes when you absolutely mean no, until one day you look in the mirror and you don't even recognize the person looking back at you. To recover from this, we can synthesize 3 actionable steps from our clinical and psychological sources. Step 1, just acknowledge the fatigue. Honestly, admitting to yourself that you're drained is a massive first step. Step 2, establish healthy boundaries. Try to think of boundaries not as walls to keep people out, but as bridges to healthier, more honest relationships. They basically tell people how to treat you. And step 3, lean into self-care routines or get professional help. Don't be afraid to utilize employee assistance programs or therapy to help rebuild those crucial internal resources. I really want you to internalize this core message. You cannot pour from an empty cup. Seriously, if you don't take care of yourself, your well of kindness is absolutely going to run dry. You'll be left as a hollow shell, completely unable to help the people you care about, and far more importantly, unable to care for yourself. To really destigmatize this whole idea of taking time for yourself, I want to leave you with this incredibly poignant quote cited in the Frontiers Journal by the philosopher Bertrand Russell. Any pleasure that does no harm to other people is to be valued. Taking an hour to read a book, going for a quiet walk, just saying no to an extra task. These things harm no one, but they can quite literally save you. That is the true essence of healthy selfishness. You have a fundamental right to prioritize your own well-being. So we're kind of left with this paradox, right? The very kindness that makes you a good person can absolutely hurt you if it's not matched with self-respect. It's time to finally take off that mask. My question for you to ponder right now is this: where will you draw the line today to protect your own well-being? Choose that boundary, set it, and please stop apologizing for taking up space in your own life. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and I'll catch you next time.